You know what, it's kind of funny. When I was doing my digging, I wasn't expecting that number to pop up out of nowhere, especially when this big guy came up, and I was thinking to myself, what the hell could have this been originally belonging to? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. 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 Uh-oh! How's it going, everyone? I am Virgin Raven, I am back from my fossil expedition, and I'm gonna give you guys a lesson in paleontology. For those of you who do not know what the fuck I'm talking about, I'm basically giving you a fossil dinosaur deck. Now, I far believe that this is the best variant of fossils, and I far believe that the fossil archetype is completely completed. Why did I say archetype? Primarily because there have been main deck monsters that have been made in the anime that have not been released yet. Not sure if they are going to be released, though, in terms of their effects, but hey, who knows, we can always still believe. I mean, heck, if fossil Dinopecacephalosaurus could be released, I hardly doubt anything else couldn't be released. And heck, the existence of these guys finally coming out is already evidence enough of that already. So, with that being said, I'm just going to shut up and we're going to jump straight into the deck profile. Now, when it comes to dinosaurs, you want to make sure that you always run a bare minimum of 2 Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. You can easily use one of them if you're having a build that is slightly more towards the rock aspect. But we're using the aspect that balances out on these two, and trust me when I say this, the ammunition that both sides provide is amazing. So much so that I might want to consider on throwing some cards out of a dinosaur engine and replace them with other aspects of a dino engine to actually make them a little bit more consistent. But Ultimate Conductor Tyranno has always been the go-to boss monster for any dinosaur deck. Literally my favourite card of all time, and oh my god, there's a good reason for it. You banish 2 dinosaurs to slap them down on the field straight away. And I purposely mean to do that. He also has this effect to blow up cards in your hand or on your field to basically set cards your opponent controls. Now, those sets and the blow-up can only be affected on monsters, but still at the same time, on a monster like this, who can attack every monster your opponent controls once each, and does well, not piercing damage, but does 1,000 points of damage per monster he sends to the graveyard if he attacks him at defense position. This guy is just pretty much amazing through and through. To compensate with a fossil engine, I decided to run a little True King engine, so we're running 1 of Lithosogen and 1 of Agum, 2 of them. Primarily because these guys can also help in trying to get stuff into the graveyard, but at the same time give you bodies on the field. The fact that these guys can also just serve as fodder for making True King of all calamities as well is also a gigantic plus. But at the same time, the individual effects, such as Lithosogem, who banishes 3 different named extra deck monsters from your opponent as extra deck, can also be very deadly, but at the same time, on resolution, this guy banishes the card. To finally continue along with the deck, we are running 3 of the usual package for the dinosaurs, being Soul-Eating Oviraptor. Must I explain why this guy is in this deck? He pretty much adds a dinosaur from your deck to your hand, or sends a dinosaur from your deck to the graveyard. But the fact of the matter is, at the same time, is that he has the ability to destroy a dinosaur on either side of a field to special summon back a dinosaur from your graveyard in defense position. There's a lot of good reasons why this card is a free of in any and all dinosaur decks. Accompanying him is, of course, 3 copies of Miscellaneousaurus. Misk is in here because of the hand trap aspect. You discard him from the hand to protect your dinosaurs from activated effects for that main phase. It especially is a good bait fodder card to get cards that your opponent has in their possession completely out of the woodwork straight away so that you can continue along in your plays. But the fact at the same time is that he constantly just pops off regardless and allows you to pop off regardless without your dinosaurs being affected by any means makes this guy pretty much mandatory in any and all aspects. Now then, here's an interesting one. I'm running 1 copy of Giant Rex. Now trust me when I say this, but this is always a smart copy in any dinosaur deck, including this one. Part of the reason being is because of the factor that Fossil Fusion banishes for its cost, and since I'm running Double Evolution Pill in this deck, this card at the same time brings itself back whenever I banish it from either Fossil Fusion or Evolution Pill. Or heck, even when I use it along lines with Miscellaneousaurus, or even Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Speaking of which, there are multiple reasons why Lithosogem was banned a long time ago, and it was because of these, darling. I'm actually kind of surprised that these are still at 3, yet Lithosogem has completely come back. Even so, the fact that what these guys can do is actually utterly ridiculous. You special summon a level 4 or lower dinosaur monster from your deck, why say no to it? And the fact that it's not a hard once per turn neither, it's whenever they get destroyed at all. So why say no to these guys? Accompanying them is a little bit of a debatable number in my eyes, and that's 2 copies of Jeweled Beast Archosaur. Look, the new name I'm not used to yet, so I'm just going to keep it as Jeweled Beast Archosaur. Archosaur is pretty much straightforward. He blows up a card from your field or your hand in order to search up an evolution pill directly from your deck. I mean, is there really any other reason why I need to explain why he does something so powerful as that? Like, seriously? Along with the level 1 targets, I'm running the 1 tuner in Jirak Aeolor. He's just a level 1 tuner, that's it. For the fossil aspect, I'm running 2 Weathering Soldier. What Weathering Soldier does is that when he's sent to the graveyard by any means whatsoever, you add a Fossil Fusion or a card that lists Fossil Fusion in its text directly from your deck to your hand. I must also mention that he is not a hard once per turn when he comes to that. Now these 2 cards are mainly just filler cards, but they're going to be replaced for the Nemesis Earth monster that's going to be releasing in Rise of the Duelists, and that's Gigantus and Dogoron the Mad Flame Kaiju. Regardless, though, I still might side Dogoron and a few other more Dogorons for other purposes, but here's the reason why I'm swapping these 2 out for the Earth Nemesis when it comes out. What the Earth Nemesis can do is that it can pretty much target one of your banished Earth monsters, or banished monsters in general, return him to the deck and then he special summons himself. Then, what happens is that if he is banished, you get to add him from your banished zone to your hand during the end phase. Must I explain why that Nemesis card is going to be used in this deck over these 2? I actually forgot that I had 3 cards missing in this deck, surprisingly enough, because I've forgotten to put them in here for the profile. But we're also running Triple Nibiru, primarily because it's a rock. No, I'm serious. It's primarily because it is a rock. Whilst his effect to summon himself from the hand by attributing every monster on the field if your opponent has summoned 5 monsters that turn is still used regardless, the fact that he's also a rock works in tangents with Fossil Fusion. And his level also works with that aspect as well. For spells of this deck, you're not any Dino player whatsoever if you're not running Fossil Day. And I hate to be the boaster, but I have got these supers. Rarity aside, what this does is absolutely amazing. Searches a level 6 dinosaur monster from your deck to your hand, not hard once per turn. This is Rhoda on fucking steroids. Next up we have our double copies of Double Evolution Pill. Did I just seriously do an indirect pun? Practically, with the deck being divided between rocks and dinosaurs, you're going to be banishing a lot to help get these facilitated off, and working a way through regardless. A card I think I might as well just recommend for you lot as a little bit of an alternative option when it comes to the monster lineup, and I cannot believe I'll knocked my camera again, and that is Overtex Quatlus. It's not in my deck whatsoever, but with the amount of banishing you may be doing with both Fossil Fusion and Double Evolution Pill, you might have 5 or more dinosaurs in the grave in your banished section by the time you see this card. So that's why I say, if you want, try taking in an Overtex Quatlus if you can, because it might work out in your favour. To continue along with the spell cards, I'm of course running double copies of Fossil Fusion. Primarily because this card has enough recursion effects that you don't necessarily need 3 at the very most. Heck, I still think 2 is pushing it, but 2 is still consistent enough to start your plays off. But if anyone else is wondering what the card does, it basically lets you banish materials from either graveyards in order for you to summon a Fossil Fusion monster from your extra deck. I should possibly mention this as well, that this card grants it monster targeting protection, as long as you use materials, 1 of each from each graveyards. And I'm not lying when I say that if the monster you would control was a Fossil Fusion monster that would be destroyed by any means, this card would occur itself back to your hand as soon as it's destroyed. To compensate even more, we're running 2 copies of Miracle Rupture. Why did I stutter on Rupture? It's one of the easiest words to pronounce, god damn it, Raven. Miracle Rupture is absolutely amazing, and allow me to tell you what it does by simply reading it. Send 1 level 4 or rock monster from your deck to the graveyard, then if Fossil Fusion is in your graveyard, draw 1 card. So basically you can just simply gain 2 pluses from this. What do I mean by 2 pluses? Well, think about it. If you hard draw 1 of your Fossil Fusions and you draw 1 of this as well, activating that first Fossil Fusion is not going to matter much anyways, and you're just going to be doing something to help keep it going. And as soon as you activate this, you dump 1 of the Fossil Warriors to add another Fossil Fusion with Fossil Warrior, but you also get to draw a card from this. There's multiple different ways of why this card is just simply amazing in this deck. To counter off with the spells as well, we're also running double copies of Time Stream. Time Stream is pretty straightforward in what it can do. It pretty much acts as a Fossil Fusion special summon effect for what it can do, meaning that regardless of how you summon out the Fossil Fusion monsters with Fossil Fusion or this, it counts as a Fossil Fusion summon. But what Time Stream does is that it tributes the one you have to summon one that is 2 levels above in your extra deck. Finally, for generic support, we're running the 1 Monster Reborn, the one upstart goblin, and one foolish burial just to keep things rolling. But whoops, my mistake. I'm also running Draconic Diagram to help get things started with a true Dracos. Next up is the extra deck, and you're going to be fascinated by this, but I'm running at least 2 copies of each leveled fossil monster. Primarily because we won't be able to see more than 2 of each respectable one. I mean, Fossil Knight is the only one that is level 6 at the moment, but everyone else has at least 1 of each level. So, Skull Guys, there's 1, Skull King, there's 1, these 2, there's 1 of each of them. But what they can do is actually pretty dang neat. These guys mainly have usage for graveyard effects by banishing themselves to add cards that work with Fossil Fusion from your deck to your hand. Skull Guys is basically a banish one when you pretty much have him in the graveyard and you banish him. Or is he a destroy one? Well, regardless, he removes 1 card on the field. This guy is like a Snatch Steal called by the grave, and Skull Guys is pretty much a double damage in Piercer, who can also swap the attack and defense of any monster he battles before the battle stat. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, all of these guys do piercing damage. Accompanying the dinos as well, we have 1 Evilzar Dalka and 1 Evilzar Lagia. And to move along with the True Kings, we're running True Kings of All Calamities. Look, if you have True King of All Calamities in any form of deck whatsoever that has True Kings or level 9s at all, he should be ran regardless. But what these guys can do is absolutely amazing for your deck. Calamities can basically just stall out your opponent. Lagia says no, Dalka says no to monsters. Here's the difference between them though. Lagia can only do it once, Dalka can do it twice. Finally, for the rest of the extra deck, well, for Link monsters for the time being, I'm running 1 Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avramax and 1 Unchained Abomination. Now, I rarely get Link 4s on the field, so kind of debating on whether I should keep these in the deck or not. But what these guys do is absolutely amazing. Abomination works fantastic when Conductor is on the field with him. Basically, sharing the field with Ultimate Conductor Tyranno basically makes it so that whenever Tyranno pops something in your hand or on your field, Abomination just basically blows up something else. So basically, in other words, it's almost like a machine gun fire between this guy and Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. And Avramax is just a nuisance to get rid of regardless, especially when you use IP. Speaking of which, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 IP Masquerain, and 1 Link Reborn. Link Reborn is in here because I'm running a lot of level 1s, IP Masquerainer is a good link too to just speed up into your further links, and Nightmare Unicorn is just a really, really good monster regardless. Finally, for an extra deck roundup, I'm running the new Synchro monster, this Crocosaur thing. I cannot read its name in its Latin, let me just bring it closer to read it. Ravenous Crocodragon Archiphaeus. Note to self, do a paleontology in Yu-Gi-Oh! Featuring Mosasaurs. This guy is just pretty much straightforward in what he can do. He pretty much allows you to draw cards equal to the materials that you used for him, and at the same time you discard 2 cards to pop a number of cards on the field. Let me just read it real quickly. It's just 1, but still some cards in this deck prefer to be in the graveyard, and after everything that goes into the graveyard, that's the reason why he's in here. And that's the deck. There's still a lot that needs to be changed, and as soon as the Nemesis monster from the next set gets released, it is going to be changing a lot. But for now, this build is something that I'm currently working towards to make it my own, and at the moment, I'm having a lot of hope for this in particular build. If you have any suggestions on how to make it better, I'm more than happy to hear them. But if you want a more competitive variant of fossils, I do recommend looking at the Adamancipator. I do know that they are expensive, and I was contemplating on trying to use this with the other 2 Adamancipator tuners rather than Researcher, but unfortunately the deck just cannot work without Researcher, which is why I decided to go with this version. If you can't afford either Dinos or the Adamancipators, then a good stun variant with some of the Quacky Mirror monsters is still a good deck to run regardless, especially if you have cards like Ties of the Brethren or other cards along the lines of that. Just be wary though, some of these cards like to be in the graveyard, so be wary in using cards like Pot of Desires. But until next time guys, I've been a Raging Raven, and if you have enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of these videos, then subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you see more, and until next time, I bid you all adieu.